Well, it looks like California has won and Glock has bowed down to all their demands. Hey everybody, Yankee here. I'm sure most of you are already aware that the state of California banned all Glocks and Glock clones. Pretty much any gun that used that crucifix-style trigger bar system, illegal now in the state of California. At least they will be starting next year. Well, it appears now that Glock has answered this by redesigning all their guns and discontinuing all the previous guns. So now Glock is going to be GenV only, which is Gen 5, but not the current Gen 5, because V means 5 in Roman numerals. So right now, what we're seeing is Glock getting rid of every other gun model they make pretty much, except for a couple, which I'm assuming maybe don't use that system or aren't legal in the state of California anyway, so there's no need to change them. I think it's probably the latter. So they're discontinuing all but those guns and replacing them with the Gen V models, which Glock has said will be identical on the outside. You're not going to be able to look at the gun and see any difference, which means that all the changes are going to be on the inside. They're going to get rid of the system they're using now. They've redesigned it. Now, a lot of people are mad because of a couple reasons. One, they say that they have bowed down to the state of California. They, succumbed to the pressure and said, all right, you're all right. Our guns are dangerous. We'll change them. People are also mad because they're saying, well, now that they're changing how they operate, the first time they've ever made a huge change like this, everything up till now has been mostly cosmetic, that it's going to really hurt the parts market, the aftermarket. You're not going to be able to use the new Gen V stuff for the old guns and vice versa. And I want to address that today. I want to address both of these things. First off, let's address that last part about how, now that they're making these changes, you're not going to be able to use the parts from the new guns and the old guns and the old guns and the new guns. Well, that's usually been the case anyway. When you do a new design, a new generation with Glock, a lot of that stuff isn't compatible with the old generations. That's why when you go out and you buy a trigger, you have to make sure, is this for Gen 3 or is it for Gen 5 or what is it for? Because you don't always have cross compatibility here with one generation and another. So that's not really a big deal to me, that you won't have cross compatibility, because it's not like every part from every new Glock fits every old Glock and vice versa. So that's kind of a non-argument in my opinion. I think there'll still be tons of aftermarket support. It's still Glock. The same changes that Glock makes, the aftermarket makers will make those same changes. I don't really think there'll be much change to the market. And like I said, it's not really that big a deal. It's not much different than it usually is when they make a new generation. So I think that is just something people are looking to bitch about. They're looking for something to be upset about. Because, like I said, don't think that's a big deal. But let's talk about the fact that they bowed down to the state of California. No, I don't think they bowed down to the state of California. If anything, they thwarted California. California went to all this trouble and they came up with this new talking point, that the Glocks are so dangerous because they can be converted to fully automatic with a Glock switch. So what they did is they went, oh yeah, really? Well, we'll make a minor change. And now that's not true anymore. So that law you just passed banning our guns won't ban our guns, because we're no longer using that cruciform design on our trigger bars. So therefore, that law is worthless. So they didn't bow down to California. They beat California at their own game, in my opinion. And I'm not really sad to see Glock change something. People are like, they've always done it that way and they should still be able to. You don't always do things the way you did before. They don't make cars the way they used to. Thank God we don't got to get out and crank them anymore. So I don't mind Glock changing, especially for the reason they did. I think that they did good here. They beat California at their own game. They got ahead of them. And hopefully the new triggers will be better. Glock triggers sucked. It's not like you're like, oh, the Glock triggers were the gold standard and now they're going to mess them up. No, they were horrible. Glock triggers are like a 3 on a scale from 1 to 10. And if you put an extra couple $100 into buying an aftermarket trigger, an upgraded trigger, you could make it a 3.5 or maybe even a 4. But that'd be stretching it a little bit. So it's not like they're taking something that was perfect and ruining it because of this. No, I only think they could only go up from where they were. So Yay for that. Now, some people are going to be upset that, oh, now I can't get a Glock trigger and make my Glock, fully automatic. Well, if you got an older Glock, you still can. If it's legal or if you wanna, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I don't care if you have fully automatic handguns, unless you're going out and commit crimes with them. If you're not committing crimes with them, I don't care. If you're driving a car down the street, unless you're driving through playgrounds or parking lots and running over people who are shopping, whatever, I don't really care that you have a car. Same thing with a fully automatic rifle. Well, as long as you're not, or a handgun, as long as you're not misusing it, why do I care? But as I was saying, like I said, hopefully it'll be better. Hopefully the trigger will be better. Because like I said, this isn't a case of them saying, oh, the anti-gunners are right and we have to change to make them happy. No, it was we made a change that they can't use their little scheme now to ban our guns. Because that's what it was. It wasn't really about safety. It was just about, here's an excuse we can use to ban Glocks. And Glock clones, very popular guns. We can take half the guns out of the state because of that. And they said, oh yeah? Well, we'll see about that. And they fixed it. So like I said, I don't think this is about them bowing down. I think this is them outsmarting, getting ahead. And let's face it, Glock knew this was a problem for a while, and they saw this coming. I mean, they didn't redesign their guns overnight after California passed this law. They've seen for a while now that since these Glock switches and stuff came out, that this is going to be a potential problem for us in the future. Anti-gunners are going to use this to get our product banned because it is a weakness in our system that it makes it easier to violate the law. So they've been working on that for a while. They didn't just roll this out overnight. So like I said, as far as, the system being changed and it was perfect before. Well, it's never perfect. The triggers sucked. Let's hope it's better. Let's look at it like that. Let's hope the triggers are now better. Maybe there are 4 from the factory now. That would be awesome. As far as bowing down to California, they didn't bow down. They beat them at their own game. They made all that work they did and all that time they spent demonizing the Glock switch and all this stuff, they made it worthless because now it doesn't matter. The new guns won't have that problem. And as far as parts compatibility and everything like that, things like that just never happen between generations. You get one generation, you lose compatibility with the next. That's just the way it is. The market will keep up. No one's going to be without their Glock parts or their Glock aftermarket parts. These companies that make their money making these are just going to make the same changes Glock makes. They're going to get the same licensing, the same, Glock wants them to be able to produce the parts. They're going to license them, etc. So there's nothing really to worry about here. If you're attacking Glock over this, you're looking at it the wrong way because this is something Glock should be celebrated for. They saw a problem. They fixed it. They outsmarted the anti-gunners. And maybe, just maybe in the end, the guns might be a little better.